Welcome to another episode of our SNG weekly wrap-up. We are going to be breaking down the NFL draft today. Last week we previewed it. This week we are going to be talking about all the picks. But before we get into all that, let's just talk about SNG Network for a second. Head over to sngnetwork.com. We've got a lot of great sports articles going up. We've got a lot of great gambling news. You can sign up, actually, to gamble on sngnetwork.com, which is pretty cool. But yeah, head over there. There's a lot of great entertainment stuff. I've enjoyed writing for them. I've been doing a lot of draft stuff. I'm going to start doing some like online poker type articles coming up. Also been doing my weekly movie picks, my daily picks for things to gamble on. Joe, you've been writing some pretty awesome articles as well.
Yeah, a little bit. Going back in time with a couple forgotten NFL games that have had more of an impact than maybe people remember, and talking about some old players. So
yeah, those are my favorite. I love the games, but my favorite are the players. I love Josh Smith. That's probably my favorite article maybe that you've ever done besides the chicken tender reviews. So go check those out. Give us a follow on social media. It's at network_SNG. You follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. All right, let's jump into breaking down the draft. What we're going to do today is, you've probably heard, if you're into the draft, you've probably heard everybody talk about every team, and it's kind of exhausting. So we want to narrow it down a little bit more. We're going to talk about 5 teams and then, kind of more 5 players that they drafted specifically. So, Joe, let's start up with the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, if you don't remember last year, they were 13-3. They were the number 2 seed in the NFC. They made the NFC Conference Championship game where they got kind of blown out by the 49ers. But I think the one thing that everybody knew they needed heading into this draft was a wide receiver. That was kind of their big problem last year, was skill position players. A little bit on the offensive line, but I thought the offensive line was pretty good, and then defense as well. They did not draft a wide receiver. Actually, in the whole draft, they didn't take a single wide receiver, which was kind of a shock in this draft that is very, very wide receiver deep, wide receiver heavy. We talked about it last year. And specifically with their first round pick, kind of a shock to most, they took Jordan Love, your guy, quarterback out of Utah State, with the 26th overall pick. So with that setup, all that being said, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the Jordan Love selection by the Packers?
My initial thoughts were, this is definitely Matt LaFleur's team. It's a lot of people, kind of pity Aaron Rodgers because of kind of the effort that they've put into his weapons on the receiving core and in the running game. But this is a team that won 13-3 last year. They made the NFC Championship game. Rodgers had a good season, as he normally does. My biggest concern with this is Rodgers has 3 years left on his contract, I believe.
Yeah.
And unless he forces a trade or retires, it's really hard to win in the NFL when you're not on a rookie quarterback deal, especially when you have an unproven guy like Love. If everything goes perfectly to plan and Love plays in that year 4, he's only going to have that 2-year window to be able to actually win, on that low contract, like the Rams with Jared Goff, like the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, and really last year, like the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But to me, so many teams have kind of figured that out, and they've went all in on the weapons around, your rookie quarterback. Obviously, that's a long time down the road. For me, that was the one thing that didn't make a lot of sense, just because Rodgers still has quite a bit of time. There's a good chance of that, I guess. A lot of CEOs kind of showed as disrespectful to Aaron Rodgers. He is I believe, the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Or it was at least when he got this deal. I don't know. I thought that was ridiculous. I thought the disrespect part was a little ridiculous because even Rodgers has said that he is looking to retire within the next 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years. Like, he's got a limited window. It's not the Tom Brady thing where Rodgers is looking to play until he's 45 years old. The flip side of that is, like you said, teams try to win with quarterbacks on their rookie deal. This isn't 2006 or 2005 anymore. Was it 2005 when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. And I think that's got to be the model that they were doing is we draft Aaron Rodgers, he sits behind Brett Favre for 3 years, and then look at how he won a Super Bowl and how great he's been and the MVPs and all that. And I think that's the thought with Jordan Love, but it's a different NFL now, and players are getting paid more money, quarterbacks are getting paid more money, and when you can have the quarterback, like you said, on the rookie deal, and you can put your money into the weapons around them, it just makes so much more sense. And what you have to do now when you've got a quarterback on a huge deal like Aaron Rodgers is you have to go in the draft and you have to get those skill position players to help around him, because you're not going to be able to go out and sign. I'm thinking about the Cowboys, where they're going to have invested all their money when all this is said and done in a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a running back. And that is just not a formula for success. And most teams can't do that. So with the Packers, it would have made, to me, a ton more sense to draft a wide receiver there. And then even looking at the second round to draft a wide receiver instead of a running back. I don't know why the Packers hate Aaron Jones so much. It's like they just refuse to ever want to use Aaron Jones, and he's so good. And to go out and get A.J. Dillon as your running back there in the second round just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And yeah, I want to be clear. Like, I don't see this as a sign of disrespect to Rodgers, like you were saying. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And from everything we know about Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't seem to me like he's going to be the greatest guy to like mentor Jordan Love moving forward. And Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers has said like barely talked when he was with the Packers. So, and I think it just worked out because Rodgers is just such an exceptional talent. And that's another difference there with Rodgers and Love is Rodgers could have easily been the first overall pick in that draft in 2005. There was never a scenario where Love was going to be drafted higher than the fourth quarterback taken off the board. Maybe the third quarterback if Tua really slipped down because of injury, but more than likely that was never going to happen. So you had 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 6 who are, potential franchise quarterbacks, and then Love's almost an afterthought. So again, to me, if you wanted to get Aaron Rodgers' replacement and you wanted to do it in the first round, I'd say maybe even wait till next year. Jordan Love, maybe I just have a down view of Jordan Love, but he's not the can't miss prospect that you need to get on your team. Otherwise, you're going to be kicking yourself 15 years down the road.
Yeah, you got to go how your board dictates the draft, and if the only guys they had first round grades on were Ruggs, Judy, and Lamb, then there was then there was really no way you could have justified picking someone else in the first round that you didn't have that grade on. It's too valuable of a pick, and who knows? I believe they were a pick ahead of Tennessee, right?
I think so. Yeah, they traded up.
And who knows, what Tennessee's looking for in a quarterback. That might have been something that they kind of had to do there.
Well, I get why they had to trade up if they wanted to get Jordan Love. I'm trying to pull up the full draft order here. I just think there were so many good players. Like when you look at the Packers defense, it was so good last year, but there were obviously some holes in there. And so even getting a guy like who was it? Was it Queen that was drafted right after? Yeah, Patrick Queen drafted 2 after. You had the Seahawks. I don't like Jordan Brooks that much. But just thinking about cornerbacks, like the guy from Auburn, who I'm not going to try to say his name, or Jeff Gladney, or if I guess maybe if you don't have the first round grade on the running back, like I get it. I just think you have to do what's going to help you win now. And if you really don't feel like you have a first round grade on anyone but Love, maybe you don't trade up, you trade back from the spot you were at. And just have extra picks in the second round. I don't know. And it was surprising to me, again, to see them not take a wide receiver in the entire draft.
Yeah, that is surprising for sure.
Because they're just going in with Devontae Adams, I guess, next year, and nothing else, basically, like how it was this year. So I don't know, man. I thought it was a weird pick. And the second weirdest pick to me was the Eagles taking Jalen Hurts. And the reason here, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this. So I'll go first, and then I'll kick it over to you on this. But the Eagles, they took Jalen Reagor, my guy, kind of a shock some people taking him 21st overall wide receiver. I thought they needed to take a wide receiver. It was a good pick. In my opinion, I like Reagor, but I am biased on it. But the Hurts thing in the second round didn't make a lot of sense to me. I think if you found your backup quarterback of the future, then good, I guess. Then a second round grade's good because you saw what Nick Foles did. But the problem here for me is that they've committed to Carson Wentz. It's not something where if you don't believe Carson Wentz can stay healthy and maybe Hurts is awesome and then you get rid of Carson Wentz after this. Wentz still has $100 million left on his deal, and I think about 3 years of guaranteed money still left on his deal. So to me, it was surprising to see them go get Jalen Hurts, who best case scenario is not going to play a single snap for your team for 4 years. So it's a high draft pick there in the fourth or in the second round to take a guy that you're hoping never steps on the field. Do you kind of agree with that, or do you see it differently?
No, I definitely disagree. I think this was a great pick. At first, it was a little bit shocking, but I think this is a way to actually protect Carson Wentz a lot. If you could
Okay.
utilize a player like Jalen Hurts on third and short in the red zone, to run kind of a power option offense, Jalen Hurts is a better passer than he gets credit for. So
Yeah.
he's not really a totally one-dimensional player when he's on the field. It's not like you can put a wide receiver or running back to replicate his skill set. You can't. Um, I think this is a situation where this actually has the best interest of Carson Wentz in mind. And I don't know if anybody's kind of interviewed Carson Wentz or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was kind of, made aware of this pick kind of before it was happened, or at least of the strategy behind it. The Eagles are going to have a very interesting offense this year because they have
Yeah.
so much speed. They don't really have a feature running back. You'd like to see another jump from Miles Sanders, their rookie last year at running back. But I think Jalen Hurts, not only does he really make it difficult for a defensive coordinator now to prepare for two different quarterbacks, depending on what look you're going to get, it gives your whole offense a whole added dimension. I really like this. I think he's definitely going to play this year, and I can't imagine he's only going to be a backup quarterback. I think there's going to be very creative ways to get him on the field. And as good of an athlete as Carson Wentz is, and he is a good runner, and he is, very good in space because he's hard to bring down. Hurts is a similar type of player, and you're almost kind of playing. You can play a little more recklessly with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Obviously, he did have some injuries in college, which is one thing you got to kind of look at. In the national championship game, he was knocked out, but for the most part, he was a pretty healthy participant in all four of his seasons in college. So I actually like this. I know Eagles fans, wanted receiver. They were able to get Marcus Goodwin, who isn't somebody that's a receiver one or two, but he is somebody that you're able to again get creative on offense with. And I think the Eagles are kind of making up lack of maybe big name ability and talent with kind of a different approach and kind of maximizing the guys they have. Now it's a little bit weird because you can say, well, they kind of put themselves in that corner because they haven't drafted particularly well
Yeah.
at wide receiver and they haven't really spent a lot of money at the position either. I mean, that's probably true, but there's no way that you're going to have the offense they had last year with Greg Ward and
Yeah.
Deontay Burnett as your
Boston
1 and 2
Scott.
going against NFC East rivals. And then they were still able to find ways to win. They beat the Cowboys and the Giants with that barren receiving corps.
Made the playoffs.
I'm
Yeah.
not an Alshon Jeffrey fan, but I do like this Jalen Hurts pick. I think this is going to be kind of a innovative move, and it's definitely something that if it works is going to be replicated. Everyone wants to throw the Taysom Hill comparison out there. I don't think Jalen Hurts is as well versed as a receiver, definitely not, or as a special teams player. But I do think he's a better quarterback than Hill, and I think it adds a lot of value.
It's a good point that you bring up about getting the opportunity to take Wentz off the field on some of those maybe QB sneak type plays or the power run type plays and have these different packages in there. I think maybe I'm not as high on Hurts as you are just after watching him, 3 or 4 years in college and seeing him live a couple times. I thought he missed a lot of easy throws, and I just don't think he maybe has it as much as a passer. But you do bring up a great point about the different packages that you can run with him. I hate the Taysom Hill comparison because like you said, I don't think he's going to be your personal punt protector and your
Yeah.
receiver and tight end and all that. But I love it in the sense that he could come out and run some of those offensive packages that New Orleans Saints are running. So I get what you're saying. I think it is a pretty good point. If I was the Eagles, I would have taken J.K. Dobbins there, who we'll talk about in a minute. But he was still available. 2 picks later, he was taken. And we we were saying like they're not going to end up in a position where they have Greg Ward and Arcega-Whiteside and Boston Scott running the ball next year, but they do have a lot of injury-prone skill position players, so it's not that far out of the realms of possibility. So for me, I would have, maybe wanted a running back in there like J.K. Dobbins, but I think you've kind of convinced me on your point. So it makes me regret the blog I put out yesterday about how bad of a pick it was.
Well, there's two schools of thought. You don't want to have your best player off the field at all.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you look at it that way, you're like, okay, Carson Wentz is our best offensive player. Now I have to play 15 to 20 snaps a game without him on the field. But I think the Saints were able to buck that trend. Now, most of the plays Taysom Hill's on the field. Breeze was also on the field. But I think that kind of made teams more aware of, you know what, we're really not taking our best player off the field. We're putting a better player for this situation on the field.
I
with
think
Carson Wentz injury history.
Yeah, I mean that to me is maybe the bigger deal, is that this shows a little bit of a sign of worry about Carson Wentz, and then maybe last offseason you shouldn't have signed him, because I know Wentz, he really is a great player when he can stay healthy, but just the fact that he can't stay healthy, so you're almost kind of you almost need to commit one way or another, and they're putting themselves right in the middle. So
it was a little bit of a freak injury for him in the playoffs last year, and you wonder
definitely, but it was a freak injury 2 years ago too, or 3 years ago, and their Super Bowl run too. So it's I think some guys, there is some truth to some guys just not being able to stay as healthy as other guys, whether it's freak injury or a legit injury. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens first round pick, I absolutely loved Patrick Queen. I think Patrick Queen's great. One of the best linebackers in the draft. I think he'll be great for the team. The guy that you want to talk about is their second round pick. Someone I just mentioned, J.K. Dobbins, went 48th overall, I believe. I don't know. I'm not trying to do that math in my head. 55th overall. And Dobbins joins a crowded running back room and a crowded backfield with Lamar Jackson, obviously, as well. I personally, I love the pick. I think J.K. Dobbins, amazing player. We talked about him last week. Maybe the best running back in the draft. We'll kind of see how that plays out. But I thought this was a great pick. But you were the one who wanted to talk about it, so I want to hand it over to you.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where you've seen a lot of the really good teams that they draft really well when they become good, if that makes sense. The Saints have drafted exceedingly well for the last 3 or 4 years. The Chiefs obviously have drafted so well the last couple of years. And now the Ravens are in a position where they're really just taking best player available. Where does our board take us to? But if they're a team that probably had maybe a low first-round grade on J.K. Dobbins to get him at 55, a team like the Ravens, that's an easy pick.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how important it is, to really hit on all these picks if you're one of these teams that are trying to get to a point where the Ravens are at.
Mm-hmm.
If Dobbins comes to and for whatever reason can't pick up the offense, his pass blocking is poor, he can't, get around Justice Hill or Mark Ingram or Gus Edwards, then you're looking at, all right, it's a wash, it's a second-round pick, most likely still going to have a great record. Yeah. I really like this pick because it shows that the Ravens are really doubling down on what they are. They have an identity. This is what they're going to do. I think they had a tremendous draft. Queen's versatility is great. Duvernay is somebody that gives them another vertical threat.
I like Duvernay.
And what I loved about the Ravens last year was just how good they are at run blocking, the receivers and tight ends. They lost Hayden Hurst, so I would have liked them to kind of address that a little bit. I think he was a really important part of the offense. But when you have that kind of talent at running back, I think now they can mask maybe what could be more of a deficiency next year by making it a strength just by having a guy as good as Dobbins, who, in my opinion, was probably the most talented running back, on the board that was eligible for the draft this year. But it just goes to show, even teams like the Cowboys that kind of are swinging for BPA, and the Saints went BPA all weekend. The Chiefs able to take a first-round running back. It's interesting to see kind of the different strategies between a rebuilding team and a team that's just looking to improve their team any way they can.
Yeah.
But I love the pick. It's something that, if you're an AFC North team, you got to add a lot of speed in your linebacking corps. And what do the Ravens do? They probably add the best, most versatile run-stopping linebacker, at least one of the quickest and most athletic. That's so much responsibility. So, yeah, I love those first 2 picks for them.
the thing this pick, the biggest takeaway when I saw it is that I'm just scared as a Jets fan, just for the next
Yeah.
15 years of Lamar and Mahomes running the entire
Yeah.
East, and then if the Dolphins are able to do a turnaround and all that, but just those two teams, I mean, it's scary. Like I don't know how you beat them, especially I thought they both had just amazing draft classes. But you pretty much hit on everything that I was going to hit on with that. I'm glad you brought up Duvernay. I thought that was a great pick. Duvernay, he wasn't a first round talent, but to get a guy in the third round, and I think they had 4 third round picks. So it's another thing where you can kind of just throw darts at the board and hope you hit something great. And I think Duvernay will be really good for them. And this team's just going to be so fast. They're just going to put up a ton of points again next year. But we'll see if that works out in the playoffs. Let's talk about the Rams. We've got 2 more teams here. We'll start with the Rams. Rams had an interesting draft because they did not have a first round pick, yet they have so many holes now. They had some bad contracts. They're totally strapped for cash. This is a team that for sure could have used. What did the Vikings have? Like 13 picks on the last day. The Rams could have used that for sure, I think. But they went running back, wide receiver in the second round. They took Cam Akers, who I thought it was a pretty good pick, and then Van Jefferson. And I want your thoughts first on Van Jefferson, especially because he was picked, I think, 2 or 3 picks ahead of the Jets, taking Denzel Mims. So I want to know if you were happy, one, with who the Jets got, and then 2, your thoughts on Jefferson and how he fits with the Rams.
I think Mims is someone that's going to be as good as he allows himself to be. So for a team that's obviously trying to change the culture and change kind of what they're all about and their identity, I think he's going to have more of an opportunity than most to really have a chance to be the guy there. He's stepping into a situation where, they've lost quite a bit of talent at the receiver position if Quincy Enunwa wasn't able to go next year. Similarly, he plays pretty similarly to Brashard Perriman, but he's not somebody that you're going to just turn down because we have Brashard Perriman. Yeah. There's no reason to draft Mims. Jefferson to me was probably one of my favorite receivers. He's a total route technician, and I think an offense like LA's is perfect for him. I was surprised they didn't kind of take more of a player like Brandon Cooks, who they lost this season. But to have guys like Van Jefferson and Cooper Kupp that can give you 5-6 routes that they're really going to be able to just own. I mean, like this is my route tree. This is what we're going to do. To me, that's so exciting as an offensive coordinator because you really can just trust your guys. And I think Van's a player that, McVay is going to have total trust in him as a rookie to come in and be somebody that they can target, multiple times a game and kind of fit in right away. I think that's the nice part with him. I don't think there's going to be much of an adjustment period. That's why it's such an exciting pick to me for them. Cam Akers, again, shows you the poorness of the Gurley contract because, going after him in the second round, I believe they took Darrell Henderson in the second round last year.
They did.
So that's not, tremendous value from your pick last year, especially when they had Malcolm Brown running the ball.
Dobbins still on the board, by the way, when they took Cam Akers, which was surprising.
Definitely surprising. But again, the Rams, this is a make or break year for them. Is this a team that you can say has the do they have the same amount of room as the Ravens, as the Chiefs, as the Patriots to kind of swing and miss on a pick like that? We're going to find out. And it's the Rams are going to be a team to me that I'm really excited to see how they respond to this season, how Goff responds. I feel like this is such a bridge year for them, and these picks make it even more exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is one of probably 3 teams I'm really excited about for next year, just to see, because this team could easily be conference championship team if everything hits and they're great, but it could also easily be a 5-11 team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really think sometimes that you could be looking at a 5-11 team, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is, and it was like that Super Bowl. If they do turn into 5-11, that Super Bowl just broke McVay's brain and broke the Rams or something. But yeah, it would be weird. It would be really weird. But we'll see. I mean, I think these are good picks too. I like Van Jefferson. That's who I was hoping the Jets would end up with. It's funny when you do your pre-draft stuff, and this is why I hate looking at stuff pre-draft because I was so out on Denzel Mims that I thought he should drop to the 7th round based on everything I was reading, and then the Jets taking him like, oh, he could be great. He's deep threat, and he's gonna be great for Darnold and all that. So I hate that how your fan brain works with the draft, but I don't know. I think it's a good pick. I think the Rams. You're probably going to hear us talk about the Rams maybe every week during football season next year when we're doing our wrap ups and just see what they've done and who how good or bad the team ends up being. So let's look at the Bucs to wrap it up here. Bucs obviously this offseason they go out, they get Tom Brady, they get Rob Gronkowski. So they didn't really need offensive weapons. What they needed was offensive line help. They get their guy Tristan Wirfs at 13 overall, I think, the left tackle. And then the guy you wanted to talk about was the safety they took in the 2nd round, Antoine Winfield. They took Winfield at pick number 45 overall. I believe he was the 4th safety off the board. Yep, after McKinney, Kyle Duggar, Grant Delpit, and then Antoine Winfield Jr. So why don't you go ahead and jump in on Winfield here?
Well, I know I talked a lot about McKinney before the draft. I was definitely surprised to see him slip to the 2nd round, and I was kind of surprised by the fit there. I think it's an interesting fit just because they have Jabril Peppers too, two kind of roaming positionless safeties.
Would have been funny if they took Isaiah Simmons as well in the first
just
round.
have 3 guys that you didn't know what you're going to get every time you snap the ball on offense. But I think this is a perfect fit for Winfield because I think it's a perfect fit for Todd Bowles. I don't think Winfield could have gone to a better place in that capacity in terms of who he's going to be coached by and what he's going to see in practice every week. To be a rookie safety and now go against Tom Brady every day in practice, or at least be able to, study what they're doing in practice, because there's not going to be too many situations where he's actually going to be on the field at the same time in practice if he's a starter. But just to be around that, that type of offensive proficiency and that type of talent is going to be totally eye-opening for him. And I think he's the perfect guy to be around that. And I think this is a home run pick for Tampa Bay. Wirfs is probably the safest pick for them at that point. I think to have, pair an athletic tackle with that, just potentially tremendous passing game was the right play. So it's another exciting team to watch this year. I do wonder how, we're going to be watching Tom Brady this year, maybe with more of a admiration. So, guys like Winfield make them even easier to root for. Keyshawn Vaughn, somebody who goes to a team that has not had a lot of luck with running backs recently, with Ronald Jones and Doug Martin, who they signed for a big deal. It's you don't want to judge by the guys before him, but Vaughn is a powerful downhill runner, and he's not too much of an addition in the passing game to, at least in college. But because of this wide open offense, I think really anybody that's on the field in terms of your tight ends, your running backs, are going to have an opportunity to catch the ball. I do wonder if they kind of go for a more, catching running back in free agency, just because it's a very difficult position to replicate somebody like Woodhead and Kevin Falk and all those guys with New England over the years. So I definitely was a little surprised by the Vaughn fit, but I think he probably was, their best running back available at that time. So can't fault them for that. And I think it adds another dimension to the offense.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay this offseason has just killed it with essentially everything they've done, and the draft's no different. And especially those first 2 picks. The draft is I think kind of we've hit on it a little bit without saying it, but I think NFL teams are starting to take the draft a little bit more like, let's go for the home run pick. Let's take the best available. Let's not always try to plug a hole, because realistically, of your 7 to 10 picks that you're getting every single draft, maybe 3, maybe 2, if you're really lucky, are going to be on your team past their second contract. So why not take the guys, step out on a limb a little bit. Let's see if we can get the home run pick instead of always go for that really safe pick. So it's been kind of fun to see that shift a little bit in the NFL. It's a little bit different than how it used to be, and I like that a lot. One thing I did want to note, so the Eagles, their first 2 picks had the first name Jalen, and then the Ravens, their 2 let me check, third round picks. Their 2 was it the Rams? The 2 Rams third round picks had the name Terrell. So just a little fun fact for you. Always just throwing fun facts at you, Joe. That pretty much wraps up. We wanted to keep it a little bit shorter this week. Give you guys something a little bit more digestible to listen to, or to watch. I think we'll try to keep it about this length moving forward. Joe, did you have any final draft thoughts though?
Later on I will, but for now, no.
Okay, cool. Maybe you write something about the draft this week. I'm excited to see what you have coming out today, tomorrow. You've got this new article coming out, a game from, what did you say, 2006?
5.
2005. All right, so I'm definitely looking forward to that one for sure. I don't. Is it football?
It's football, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it could be. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, go check out sngnetwork.com. The link will be in the description for this show. Give us a follow on social media. That will also be in the description, but it's at network_SNG. But that wraps it up for this week. Excuse me, tripping all over my words. But we'll be back with you next week talking about something that's not the draft. And hopefully there's some sports to talk about. Otherwise, we're just going to be chatting about life.